Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
You want some ganja, man?
No, that's Molly.
Hello.
And we're here to help you navigate all the landmines littered down memory lane. So Mike, did you notice something different about today's show?
Your voice went up an octave, sounds like.
No, we have a special guest today,
Cool.
Mike. So like when let's be honest, the show's ratings are in the toilet, really. So you know what the suits do when the show's in trouble, right?
You bring in
they bring in a fresh
Cousin
face,
Oliver, if you will.
bring in a kid, right? Yeah, she's an Oliver. Yes. So we're using you, Molly. But welcome to the show, Molly. It's good to have you.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the next hour or so. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, slow down.
Okay. I'll try.
Actually, we'll ask you
in all honesty, yeah.
Okay.
So for those that are curious, Molly is a very special listener who took us up, called our bluff when we asked for people to want to sit on the show. Molly reached out to us and recommended a couple of movies. This is one of them. So if you don't like the movie, it's this episode is her fault. But she was kind enough to offer her services, and we are more than happy to have her, and we're just thrilled to have her on. So, Molly, welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll see how this goes.
That sounded
Okay.
foreboding.
Well, yeah. But she does have more confidence than you had, Mike, when you were on your first show, so that's good.
Trust me, I still don't have it.
Let's keep the train wreck moving, right? All right, so as I mentioned, we took a request, and she had a couple good requests. We decided to go with Predator 2 out of her selection, and this is where we knew Molly was our people, because she said we noticed that she had an appreciation for Gary Busey and Bill Paxton. So one of us.
Oh yeah, the Bill.
So she
yeah,
gets the
she
show.
had me when she said Bill Paxton. I was like, yeah, okay, bring her on, Justin.
Yeah.
So he had an interesting role in this movie, but I guess we'll get to that when we get to that.
He was especially offensive in this one, man. I was surprised.
You think so?
Goodness. Yeah. He had his
Very, very off the cuff offensive.
Yeah.
And then he just says something and then moves on, and you're like, what the heck was that?
so true. It's like, whoa, wait, come back to that.
Yeah. Or don't.
All right, so the movie we're talking about here is Predator 2 from 1990. It was directed by Stephen Hopkins, who directed Blown Away, Mike, I think the Jeff Bridges bomb movie. He did Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, which is one of my favorites, Mike.
That's where I knew him from.
That actually got his attention from the studio.
Yeah,
of course. And he also did the movie Lost in Space, which, if you remember, was the Titanic killer, the movie that knocked Titanic out of
the Matt LeBlanc, William Hurt movie?
Lost in Space.
That one?
Yeah,
no.
The 1998.
Oof.
Yeah, the Titanic killer. But he's done a lot of TV and stuff since then. It was written by his writing team, Jim and John Thomas. I'm assuming they're brothers. They wrote the original Predator. They wrote this one. They wrote Prey, which is a sequel to this down the line, which is actually really, really good. But they also had a hand in the Wild Wild West, Mike, which is on our list.
I'll give that to him.
So that even got a shrug from Molly. So that crosses.
Yeah, I saw it once. That was enough.
It's awe-inspiring when crap crosses generations.
It is. It really is. It makes my heart feel warm inside.
This was released on November 21st, 1990. Budget of $35 million. And as you'll see here, the production studio, 20th Century Fox of all people, went really, really cheap, even on a $35 million budget. And a lot of the shortfalls, I guess you want to say, if there are any of this movie, are probably the result of their budget and some of their odd choices here. But we'll get into that. Now, the glaring omission here is Arnold, of course, Mike. So why don't you walk us through the cast and see who they managed to cull together to crank out another sequel?
Like I said, I didn't look up any of the backstory of that. But was Arnold asking for too much money, or is he one of those? Is he one of those idealistic kind of actors?
Actually, I know that.
Oh, cool.
Uh-oh.
I actually do know that. He did. He was doing Terminator 2 at the time, or he was asked to do Terminator 2, and he chose that over Predator.
Oh,
2.
Smart man.
Which, may have been a good call on his part.
Probably a good call.
Yeah.
Same issue with the director John McTiernan, who directed the first Predator. His asking price was $2 million, and
Wow.
they decided not to go that route. And at a point, there was actually some negotiation. To Molly's point, they're trying to woo him back to the production, and it ended up being a difference of $250,000.
Is that all?
They couldn't close the gap on that. You got to remember that Predator, the first Predator came out in 1987, and it made $98 million. That's in 1987 dollars. That was a big hit on $50 million budget. So you think at some point the studio and Arnold could have. I mean, Arnold probably spends $250,000 on his gas for his Humvee during the shoot, so they couldn't figure out how to make that happen. So, but yeah,
that's a shame, huh?
So
interesting.
They didn't bring his name up. They just said there were two survivors. That's all we get in this movie.
Yeah.
Cast.
Sorry, I had an interjection because I watched a bunch of the extra features, and apparently there was like a deleted scene where they said that they mentioned what's Arnold's Dutch, his character in the first one. They mentioned that he died of radiation poisoning 9 weeks after the events that happened. So you see, what's her name, the lady Anna who came back with them on like a little, blink and you'll miss it. You'll see her getting interviewed or interrogated, but then in like that was the backstory, and then they just didn't keep it in the movie.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Mike, I don't know if I appreciate all this research.
It's way too much for my liking.
How dare you show up prepared?
This is ridiculous, man. Come on. All right.
Please continue with the cast.
Now, Molly, I want you to hear some serious research here. This is what you call research. All right.
Okay.
First, we have our lead. Might know him as Danny Glover, who first came to my mind as the bad guy from Color Purple. Then you got to beat Oprah Winfrey around a little bit in that movie. But nowadays, people probably know him more for the commercials he does with the laughing disease, where people laugh too much. That's all I see him in now. But he's most famous for Lethal Weapon 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. I don't remember how many Lethal Weapon movies are. But he's the I'm getting too old for this shit guy. So that's another way to remember him.
Yeah,
he's the hardened policeman in this movie. He works in the L.A., not the Rampart division. Molly, what division do they work in?
Oh, the what?
Alvarado. Is it Alvarado? Justin, do you remember what?
Alvarado.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't have known that.
All right, and he's joined by Maria Conchita Alonso, who I remember from The Running Man and Colors. She's a hot tamale. And by the way, Justin, my tamale steamer needs to be worked on. It got messed up during the shootout between the Venezuelans and the Jamaicans.
I knew you were going to remember. I knew you were going to remember that line. I don't know why, but there it is.
Okay, those
all right.
Ruben Blades. I can't remember any movie he was in. Maybe something with Edward James Olmos. I could not remember, so I apologize.
Yeah, he's the poor man. He's the poor man's Edward James Olmos.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you have like their superiors. You have I don't know his name. He was like the captain. He was kind of a fake Kurt Russell looking guy. And then Robert Davey, who I knew from Die Hard, which was kind of ironic that he was in Die Hard. He was also in this movie. He was one of the FBI goons in that movie. But anyway, he's also joined. He's a James Bond villain from I think License to Kill. There's a Timothy Dalton one. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I want to go to the goons. Let's those. Wait, well, I forgot Bill Paxton. Oh my God, This is our fourth time on our podcast.
How dare you?
I know.
In this movie, he's one of
he's gold tier
the new
status.
greenhorn kind of cop who wants to work with Danny Glover, and he's the annoying Jerry. And well, Jerry has a misogynistic problem, but that's
Jerry has some problems.
It's 1990. I'm sorry, 1997 L.A. And what do you expect? And then we go to our our bad guys. This is okay. I just mentioned James Bond villains earlier. I want to mention another James Bond miscasting, which was Terry Hatcher as a nuclear physicist, which was roundly criticized at the time. Picture this. Picture Gary Busey as having a PhD from Cornell. And you kind of have to suspend disbelief there, which I try to do. But he's our main Fed goon in this movie, and he's reunited with Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon, so that's kind of cool. He's joined by his right-hand guy is Adam Baldwin, who was on another one of our podcasts, and Independence Day is, of course, a military guy. Well, what else? Besides being my bodyguard and the TV show
That's
Chuck.
That's another reunion.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another reunion,
know,
Mike.
Right?
He was with Gary Busey in DC Cat.
Was he in DC? Oh, poor guy. Well, everybody. What was that? Was it,
Sorry, cheap
was
shot.
it Losing It? Well, yeah, it was. What was that? Really? It was a really bad Gary Busey movie from the early '80s. Oh shucks! This is gonna bother me.
That's all of them, Mike.
I'm like, that narrows it down so much.
And then this is my special cameo cast member of the day. It's Lillian Chauvin. I had to look it up in the cast because I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, I got to look this up. This was a few times I had to actually Google this person because it bothered me. She looked familiar. And I realized she was in a Mystery Science Theater movie, Bloodlust, as the wife of the evil scientist.
Oh, yeah.
And here she was. And my goodness,
nice.
Google this lady. She was in 1,000 movies and you would never know it. There were popular movies. See, they weren't like grade B or grade Z science fiction movies.
Yeah.
This woman was in a lot of stuff. And I was shocked. So there you go. I think that's all I got.
Well, nice job, Mike.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for that.
I know you got more.
Not a whole lot more on the cast. So we, obviously the elephant in the room here is where's Arnold? This movie got greenlit after a successful comic book series was put out.
Mm-hmm.
This generation of Marvel kids think they invented comic books, but they've been around a long time. They've had a lot of influence on pop culture, and this is certainly one of them. The original cut of this got an NC-17 rating, Mike, as I'm sure you're well aware.
I'm watching.
They had to cut out a lot of.
I'm watching it with my wife last night, and the first thing she says watching it is gratuitous, and I was like, "Yeah, pretty much."
Yeah.
I can see a lot of this getting cut.
And we've done some movies similar to this, and that seems to be a common theme. Is that maybe it's just a sign of the times, or just emblematic of that era, but there's a lot of extra violence in here. But it is a movie about an alien that's killing people, and it's called Predator. So I mean, let's not clutch our pearls too much. But I think what had some of the gore, I think, was the bigger parts, especially with the gang warfare stuff and the trophyism that he uses to dismember his bodies. I think that was probably the biggest thing. So they cut, I think, 10 to 12 minutes out of this.
Do predators eat spinal fluid or brain fluid? Is that the implication? Like I couldn't remember if.
I don't think so.
Because it seemed like he sucked it out of the brain cavity. Now, I know that's just probably a taxidermy thing, but I was like, what does he do with that stuff? Does he eat it?
I think it's established in the movie that he eats beef, but he doesn't eat people.
Okay.
Because that's why he's hiding in the slaughterhouse, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's.
Justin,
that's two show ups.
Justin, after this podcast, we need to talk, man. We
got a screen.
We're looking ridiculous, and people in our position don't like to look ridiculous.
Yeah. No, they do not. Just a couple other notes about the cast. Patrick Swayze was in the running. They were trying to get Patrick Swayze as a potential replacement for Arnold, but he was injured after the movie Roadhouse. He had a lingering injury. Roadhouse was filmed about the same time. So that's they managed to cobble together enough interested actors to put this out, and they found a director that they were happy with, and they were ready. It was only a 4-week shoot. They gave the director Stephen Hopkins 4 weeks after he finished The Dream Child, and said, "You got to knock this out." And he understood the assignment. He cranked out what is essentially a B movie, but it's not without its charm. So. This came out in the Thanksgiving season of 1990. A couple other things going on during that time, Mike. This was released on the same weekend as 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Oof.
Molly, have you seen 3 Men and a Little Lady?
I have not.
Good.
Am I missing anything?
No.
Keep it that way.
Okay.
If you like Tom Selleck, maybe you would like it, or Ted Danson. But Steve Guttenberg, oh my gosh.
Gutenberg, the Goots. Don't you dare disparage the Goots. The other movie that came out this weekend was a movie I watched ad nauseum as a younger child. A movie called Robot Jocks. which was kind of precursor to Transformers. Remember that, Mike? It was on HBO all the time.
No,
we watched
I never
it in
heard
our
of this.
We watched it in our dorm as freshmen, sophomore in college. We watched this in our dorm all the time. It's
Oh
a
my
horrible
gosh.
movie,
Robot
but it's
jocks.
kind of like guys that get up into avatars. They get into these giant fighting robots, and they're jocks that get in robots. Mike, just like the title implies.
It's all right there.
So some other movies in theater that kind of hindered the success of Predator 2 was Home Alone had come out 2 weeks earlier.
Mm.
Dude, it's sequel mania, man. He had what?
Yeah.
3 Men and a Little Lady, Home Alone 2. This movie, jeez.
Yeah. Then Dances with Wolves came out the week before, and then Misery came out the week after, and then Edward Scissorhands came out 2 weeks after. So there you go. Like 5 biggest movies of all time were out during Predator 2. So I don't know. I don't think they considered the release schedule very carefully when they put this one out. So, but that's the way things were in the 90s. They just released a lot of good movies. Other things about the 90s, Molly, that I think you'll like, Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with that one.
All right, good. That was on the charts. That was the first rap single to hit #1 on the charts, making people like Run DMC and Public Enemy and the Beastie Boys very pleased, I'm sure. Other music that was popular then was Whitney Houston. Mike, did you see Whitney Houston in Carowinds in '82?
I did. 87.
You saw Whitney Houston.
It was when her big. It was her big. I want to dance with somebody face. Yeah. Man.
Well, the song "I Am Your Baby Tonight" was the big hit there. Some other interesting things about 1990, and there's not very many, is that Microsoft introduced Solitaire onto their Windows platform, thus degrading productivity for the American population for the next 10 to 15 years. What's the first thing you did when you got a computer, Mike? Played Solitaire.
Minesweeper.
Or Minesweeper.
Yeah,
Solitaire was the other one that was on there. Nobody knew how to play it, but it was there.
So gas was $1.34 a gallon, and your movie ticket cost $4.22, Mike.
Oof. And it was also the year before I was born. So if that makes you feel old, then I've succeeded.
Boo.
Hush. Oh, boo. Yeah, grown-ups are talking, Molly. Be quiet. All right, I'm going to editorialize just for 1 second, speaking of theaters. So, yeah, $4.22 for a movie ticket. If you look at the analysis of it now, those things have scaled proportionally with inflation. So movie tickets have scaled pretty much with the cost of inflation. What has not scaled, as everybody's painfully aware of, are concessions, right? So, so at the time a movie ticket cost $4.22, a large popcorn was $2.50. That, if you compare that to today, it's gone up 788%. They got an 84% margin on popcorn. Wow. And I'm sure everybody thinks that's a travesty. But as a former employee of the motion picture industry myself, Mike, I just want to say one thing to younger folks that decide they don't want to go to the theaters anymore, would rather stream it or binge it or Netflix and chill. In the 30s, 65% of the population went to the movies, right? It was granted, there weren't a lot of other things to do, but about 65% of the population went to go see movies. Now that number is less than 10%. So the fact that theaters are still, been a 30% reduction in theaters over the last 15 years. And I'm going to get a little nostalgic. I can do that because it's in the name of the show, right?
Don't get grumpy.
But I miss the fact that our culture is shifting away from going to the movies. When you think about the movies we've covered in particular, those were built on the backs of people going to see things in the theater. I'm really concerned, as a grumpy, old, nostalgic man, that the quality and quantity of movies are really going to seriously go down because the creative types are going to start catering things for, let's face it, young adult, 12-episode binge-worthy stuff on Netflix. And I think the movies are, I think it's proven, you can't see a movie anymore. Marvel's still in the theater, but, the average theater, they just don't live there. And it's mostly because people don't want to go to the theater because whatever, you can blame the pandemic, you can change cultural shifts, but the people that complain about the concessions, remember that when you pay $7.50 for your popcorn, that's keeping that theater alive. If you care about that thing at all, just try to keep some context. Yes, it's a lot of money. But understand that those are keeping people, the ushers and the projectionists and the digital experts and all that, keeping them in business because they only get about 20%, 25% of the box office. When they sell a ticket, about 70% of that goes to the theater. So anyway, I said my piece. Go to the movies, guys. It's a good experience. $7.50.
There's nothing like popcorn at a movie theater. And no matter how much it gets, you're still going to buy it because you smell it as soon as you walk in that theater.
What was the best thing about going to see Avatar this weekend? Popcorn. The popcorn.
Not the movie. Not the movie? Was it terrible?
Like I said, the popcorn.
The popcorn.
All right. So speaking of going to,
it's not that it's terrible, Molly. It's that it's not as memorable as the popcorn. Let's put it that way. Just like the first Avatar movie, a lot of people have remembering what happened. It's similar in this one. You're kind of like you just shut your mind off, and that's
a good example. The reason I liked Avatar is because I was in a dark room with my friends on a giant screen eating movie popcorn. I mean, that adds a whole lot. That sounds corny, but it adds a whole lot to the experience. If I saw this movie where I could just pause it and get up and let the dogs out or go to the bathroom and then drop myself and get taken out of the experience, let's face it, when you can pause the movie and walk away, you do. You're inclined to do it. You know? So there's a different element to it. So, all right, I'm getting too sappy. So let's get to the movie. So, Mike, we have 3 in our party. We're into the theater. You ready to go?
All right.
Molly, good to go?
I'm good.
Hit the button, Mike. All right, so the movie opens up with my favorite beginning sequence of all time, the 20th century fanfare. When you hear that music, it's cool. You get this, what appears to be drone footage of this weird jungle, right? But it's actually just L.A., and the camera zooms back, and it opens up over a futuristic 1997, Mike, in L.A. They're in the middle of a heat wave.
I know. That was probably the most clever thing they did. They shot their wad in the first 2 seconds of this movie. I was like, whoa, they're going to show Dutch, you know. And then they showed L.A. You're like, oh, that was clever.
I think
they're being clever. It's the urban jungle.
Yeah. It's a bit of a bait and switch.
Yes.
But you kind of get that iconic thermal vision, so you know the predator's already there. And we kind of open up on this huge gang fight in the middle of the street, Mike. And
yes,
you know it's a gang fight because all the guys don't have sleeves and they're wearing Panama hats. So, but there's this horse's ass of a news reporter played lovingly by Morton Downey Jr. Who Molly?
I forgot to mention him in the cast.
Molly, this is probably
people like Molly.
Before your time.
Yeah, this is.
I did a little research.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. So I at least understand the context of who he was. So it's like, okay, he's basically playing himself as an obnoxious TV.
Yeah. He makes. Okay, this is for our older listeners. Morton Downey Jr. makes Jerry Springer look like Phil Donahue. So if you can get that reference, you probably get it. But yeah, he was he was known for having his own TV show in New York at first, but he would like invite real neo-Nazis and then bring in like the Black Panthers and have them sit together. It's like you're asking for trouble. I mean, he would purposely do this stuff on his TV show in real life, and I was like, he was kind of playing himself in this movie.
Real schlock.
So when he gets punched in the face, you're like, yes, thank God.
But yeah, so they're in the middle of the shootout, and then Danny Glover shows up in his Ford LTD with his tweed pants and a mustard-colored sateen shirt.
Mustard, yes.
And he cusses a lot, Mike. That's his thing. That's his character trait. He comes in and just cusses at everybody, trying to break up this gunfight. And he somehow busts off the door of his car and turns his Ford LTD into a urban assault vehicle and breaks up the gang shooting. And so the remnants of was it the Scorpions or the Scorpio gang?
Scorpio, I think.
Scorpio, thank you, Molly.
It was El Scorpio was the tall guy with the long hair. He was the leader of the Colombians.
Right. Oh, that was his name.
I love the fact that the Colombians and the Jamaicans taking over L.A. I would have never expected those two groups.
Didn't see it coming. But the Colombians kind of run for it, and they go into this building where they've got conveniently have a big arsenal of more guns. And so Danny goes up
bowls and bowls of cocaine.
Handfuls of it everywhere.
Yeah. So, Danny goes in there to try to flush him out. And it turns out that the Predator's got kind of a man crush on Danny Glover. All right. So he notices him from afar. And I guess my interpretation is he's enamored that Danny's kind of a warrior type, that kind of came in and guns and blazing. And it's implied that they have some sort of like cultural respect for warriors. And there's some rules that the Predators have. And I think one of them is that they respect people on their level, and I guess I'm assuming that he thinks Danny is one of these alpha predator types of the humans. So he's following them around, and it turns out the Predator kind of takes out all the Colombians very gruesomely, and then Danny kind of stumbles upon that with the rest of his crew, and then the upper management comes in, Mike, and his boss, the grizzled boss.
Yes, Robert Davey.
Yeah. And he comes in, and he gives the standard shtick about you're a loose cannon, Harrington, and disobeyed order, direct order, blah blah blah. This is not your jurisdiction, blah blah blah. But as he's walking out, Danny sees the thermal invisibility suit of the Predator. He does kind of a double take, but he sees something weird up there, right? So he heads back to the police station. That's where we get introduced to Bill Paxton, Mike.
Our favorite.
Yes.
Cosplaying as Lyle Lovett, as far as I can tell, with his outfit.
Yeah. The outfit. Yeah. But his personality was kind of the aliens, character he played. Was he Hudson?
Hudson, right?
I think. Yeah. It's that same kind of demeanor. You know.
But yeah, he's playing a version of Bill Paxton. He's like the new recruit that joins Danny Glover's unit. And he's got plenty of funny jokes too, as we go. So they're trying to investigate what happened to this massacre with these two gangs, and they start to do some deep digging, and they understand that there's some sort of like gang war between El Scorpio and the Jamaican Voodoo Posse, which I think is just fantastic.
Yes.
We should have named our show that.
Jamaican Voodoo Posse.
The Voodoo Posse.
My understanding is originally they were going to have them be Rastafarians, but apparently, I don't know, somewhere along the way they thought maybe that would be a little too out there for people. Like people wouldn't know what those were, so they settled on Jamaican Voodoo. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
Well, Cool Runnings was a few years away, Mike. So that's understandable.
Yeah. Shit happens, man.
Oh, they say that enough too. I noticed. I don't know if you noticed this too, Molly, but this was like an action movie meme generator. Like every line of dialogue was just.
Yes, there was a lot. there was just like every other line was. I have probably either seen on a meme or heard it somewhere, but long before I ever saw this movie.
Okay, well, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that noticed that horrible trend. So they're trying to understand where all the violence is coming from, and then one of Danny Glover's partners goes in to investigate where this massacre took place, and he gets killed by the Predator, but not before discovering some weird weapons that no one understands. They go and talk to the Jamaicans, and the Predator is kind of stalking them, and as they leave, the Predator kills King Willie, which was sad to see him go.
King Willie, no.
Yeah, shout out for King Willie, because for one scene, he stole it for that one scene, so I guess they had to kill him so he wouldn't take over the whole movie.
Yeah. So all the while, Gary Busey, quote-unquote scientist, this was the first movie he did after his motorcycle accident, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird, because
no one,
and I know Molly's disappointed as I am. He didn't really go full Busey on this until the end, right?
Yes,
he was kind of subdued, I thought.
Although, again, looking at like the extra features, he is full Busey in the extra features. He's like he thinks he is hunting the Predator. He is all in. Like there's no differentiation between his character and him in his mind at that moment. So he's going for it.
He's a method actor.
Very much so.
Or a head case, one of the two.
Nice.
Yeah, so
he did suffer permanent brain damage after his motorcycle accident. So
yeah, but they get into a little exposition here where it's kind of understood that Gary Busey's team has kind of been stalking this Predator, and it kind of loosely connects the dots between the previous movie where they've been following him, and there's a little exposition here where he explains to Danny Glover that they've been tracking him, and he's been in the Philippines, and he's been in Colombia, anywhere where there's heat and conflict, Mike. So that's why they're in Los Angeles, because it's 109 degrees and there's gang wars there.
109, man.
109 degrees.
It's a very sweaty movie, by the way. And,
so sweaty.
And can I dive before you? I want to go over some of the fashion choices and technology choices in this movie.
We know this is your strong suit, Mike. Please go ahead.
This is 1997, and another. The movie's in 1990, so I'm not sure they're really going for the future. But I don't. It's almost like alternate universe kind of stuff where they're wearing the zoot suits and the fedoras.
Yeah, the fedoras were.
There's lots of Mustangs on the road. They're from like the 60s and Vegas, and even the cops drive minivans, which was really off-putting. And the guns they have like laser sights on them.
Cops have moms too.
It's just really weird. And how's there a taxidermy shop in downtown LA? I just really, that one really bothered me. But it's an odd. It's like they were trying for some kind of futuristic society that it didn't quite get pulled off. It was odd.
Yeah,
it's just off-putting the way the wardrobe that they had on. The only people who had style was the Voodoo Posse in their Cadillac, and and King Willie and his big giant, his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And other than that, it was just a bizarre kind of. That's why I keep going for the parallel universe thing, because it was just so strange, off-putting to see all the old cars, and it's like being in Mexico again or something.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Well, in typical fashion, Mike, you've asked a plethora of questions I don't have an answer for, so I'm just going to assume they're rhetorical, and we're gonna move on.
And how does a lightning bolt hit the Predator and not affect him? Like,
he's an alien.
Is that? I know, but it's that's a big jolt of electricity. I thought it would like hurt him, but he seemed to be like a Sun Man from Superman 4, just kind of.
It's nuclear, man. Thank you.
All the electricity.
It is nuclear. That explains
nuclear,
everything.
Man. Thank you.
I do have one question though. The Predator hunts off of heat, right? And he's using this thermal sensor. So humans are like 98 degrees, right? And it's 109, and the concrete is baking and soaking up all that heat. So why are only the people showing up with heat? Everything else is that cool blue and green. I always wondered that.
Yes, good one.
Another rhetorical question. Let's move on. I'm sure
we just throw these questions out there. We know nobody can answer them, so it's nitpicky.
Yeah.
I'll try to get hold of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and we'll get that one answered for you. But maybe someone knows in the audience. Please email us and answer Molly's annoying questions, please. All right, so they kind of go into the third act here, and it kind of comes to a head where Busey's team of scientists have been watching him for a total of 2 weeks, like it's a big deal. And they've understood his patterns. They know that the Predator likes to eat beef, and every couple of days he goes to the slaughterhouse. So they're going to do an ambush, and they're going to try to capture him. So they gear up in their best ABBA gear, or at least the Bee Gees costumes, and they're ready to go. They've got like what appear to be guns, but they're actually like, was it liquid nitrogen?
Freeze rays.
Freeze rays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is they're going to freeze the Predator and capture him. And if movies have taught us anything, Mike, it's that scientists are not good action heroes. So they set up this ambush, and it kind of goes off the rails. Molly, it's not good.
Wait, Justin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just made a mental connection with. Okay. They're wearing the same suits that were in Monster A Go-Go.
You're right.
See, right, Molly, that's why I try to do this guy. I try to stump him.
Monster A Go-Go is a horrible 60s movie. It's featured on this Science Theater, Molly.
Okay.
This is we have to do an annotated version because Mike's trying to get it's a horrible monster movie focusing on aliens from outer space, and they think tinfoil suits is the way to go.
I mean, basically predators.
Yeah, back to LA. So the Predator essentially just kills the entire crew. Danny kind of shows up, guns a-blazing. He starts shooting things up and hits the sprinkler system, and that kind of deactivates the hide-a-suit of the Predator. So now you get to see the actual monster, which is what you paid for anyway. And then, unfortunately, Gary Busey kind of comes back to the dead, and this is where he finally goes full Busey. He gets that glazed look in his eye, and he starts trying to attack the Predator. And then the Predator shoots this like murder frisbee, and kind of
love that thing.
Gives Gary Busey a haircut starting at the waist, cuts him in half, which was pretty gruesome.
A bisection.
Yeah, he bisects. Now there's two Gary Buseys. And then the last 10 minutes or so, there's a bunch of silliness of the Predator and Danny Glover fighting in Los Angeles, kind of busting through apartment buildings. And I love the scene here with the old lady. The Predator goes in.
Yes.
He's been injured, of course, because Danny shot him up. He has this like medicine he uses in a little fire pit where he grinds up some bathroom tiles and media and pours this like blue glow stick stuff over it and patches himself up. And meanwhile, the owner of the apartment is this older lady, and she's got a broom. she's gonna take them out. But they end up fighting each other, and it ultimately ends up they chase each other down to the Predator's subterranean lair under the subway.
Didn't you halfway expect Danny Glover as he's climbing that building on the edge of it to say, "I'm getting too old for this shit"?
I knew it was coming. Yeah,
go out fly out to California, meet some friends. Like you pictured a John McCain line maybe thrown in there. Right. As he's going to the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
The air shaft. It's like it was that same kind of vibe to it, and I was like, "Wait, it just for a minute there." I was like, and they really vaguely established his fear of heights in like the first scene when he kills Errol Scorpio.
Yeah.
And then this scene comes back in, like, oh wow, he has a fear of heights, but you don't really feel it.
He got over it.
I don't know why they even threw that in there. It's just.
It's like he. For somebody who's afraid of heights, he went right down that drain pipe way quicker than I would have.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's funny. Oh, did we mention that Bill Paxton got killed again by another alien?
Oh no, you forgot the subway scene.
I forgot the subway scene. Yeah.
Again.
I was so excited.
In a city where they drive 65 Mustangs, they have a pretty sleek subway system.
Yeah. Again, an indication of the future, because in 1990 the subway didn't exist, so they were, or it wasn't done yet. They were assuming it would be done in 1997.
Wow,
there you go.
They filmed it in They filmed on the San Francisco BART system.
Yep.
Wow, very cool.
There you go, Justin.
All right, I'm dumb. I get it. I'm dumb. All right, so they get to the last part. The last scene is where they're down in the Predator's kind of, I guess, ship, his base, and they're fighting it out. And he gets a hold of the murder frisbee and kind of like he ends up killing the Predator, like sticking it to him in the old solar plexus mic. And as the Predator dies,
my God,
my favorite part of the movie is when I guess it's implied that the rest of his hunting party shows up, so you get 8 or 9 more Predators that kind of come in.
Yeah.
And
what were these guys doing the whole time? Were they killing other people all over LA?
Or somewhere. Yeah,
what's going on here?
Yeah, or they're like just watching,
is that
being
another
like,
movie?
Maybe he'll die.
What?
I don't know.
Like this was like a guy's weekend. They all went out.
Oh yeah.
So let's go to Los Angeles and kill some humans. Grab a few beers. So they kind of show up, and you think, Danny's in big trouble. But again, they kind of harken back on this kind of honor code system that they have, and they realize that Danny Glover's a real predator, took down one of their own, and there's an honor to that. So they just kind of pick up their fallen brother and kind of walk out. Interesting bit of trivia here. All the other Predators are played by Los Angeles Lakers, uncredited.
Couldn't find any other tall people, I guess.
Yeah, well, Danny Glover was a staple at the Staples Center, no pun intended, at Showtime with the Lakers, and he was a friend of the head coach at the time, Pat Riley, and he knew a lot of big, tall guys, and they all volunteered to be. Cool. So somebody, there's famous Lakers under those suits, which I thought was cool.
Michael Cooper?
Probably
Michael Thompson.
Michael Thompson.
Kurt, Lottie Divac? No,
he was there.
Kurt Rambis.
Kurt Rambis, yeah, I'm sure he was. Ignore us, Molly. We don't know what we're talking about.
Grumpy.
But I thought was interesting here is that one of the predators gives Danny a parting gift, which is an old single shot musket pistol from 1715, implying that they've been doing this for quite some time. A fact that's kind of played out later in, I think, Prey, where I think that was the same year. They kind of tied those together. Yeah. So of course, in every Predator movie, there's always a self-destruct, and as the hunting party leaves and they take their fallen comrade away, they tell Danny to take the gun, but they don't tell him that they've hit the self-destruct button, and Danny's got to get out of there quick. Oh. And guess what? He just makes it, Mike. And we're left here with kind of a bummer ending. Danny Glover's just kind of like covered in ash, and the helicopters are just kind of flashing their spotlights on him like he's just stuck there with, has no idea what happened or anything like that. And then the movie just ends. Danny saved the day. And that's the end. And everybody takes a deep breath. So
yeah.
We'll get to our opinion here in a minute. Let me just go through the awards and accolades. So this movie had a $35 million budget, as I mentioned. It opened with an $8 million weekend, which wasn't too bad considering the competition at the time. Ended up making about $30 million U.S. release, and about $57 million worldwide. So not a real critical or box office success, but it does have its fan base. It has. The first time I saw it was just, again, HBO's. When you're in your college dorm room, you watch anything that's on TV, and this was on a lot. And it held up under those conditions. I didn't think it was great because I thought it was kind of a bit of a letdown from the first one, which I just thought was amazing. But time has been a little bit better to this, only in the fact that they created a lot of crappier Predators since then. So I guess from some perspective, it's against the other Predators that came after it, especially the Alien versus Predator stuff. Those are garbage. But it improved a little bit for me. Hey. So for my grumpy meter, Mike, I think the first time I saw it, I would have gave it a 3 out of 5, just because I missed Arnold. I think the second time through, probably a 3.5. Wasn't great art, but I sat and watched the whole thing and enjoyed going back. So I'll go to 3.5. Mike, what about your first watch and then your subsequent grumpy review?
Is that 3.5 out of 5?
Yeah.
Or is that 3.5 out of 4?
You heard me. You heard me.
Okay, I thought maybe I was hoping it was 3.5 out of 10.
No, here it comes.
Well, it just did not hold up well. I was very put off by the whole. I didn't notice this before when I was watching it. I think I saw it on HBO too at the time, but the whole off-putting kind of, I'm not sure what year this is kind of vibe I got to it, and the weird Colombian Jamaican gang. This movie was not as good as I remember it, and I don't know, it just felt very campy, and it was, for me now looking at it, it's kind of like a movie loaf, where it's it's kind of a little bit of Die Hard, and obviously it's Predator, but had a little bit of RoboCop in there.
Lots of Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
And
you're off the force.
It's one of those movies where if I had literally just watched Predator and then I watched this movie, I'd be like, well, okay, it's got the same, Predator kind of stuff going on, but it belongs in the jungle, and I know that we're trying to do the urban jungle, LA, all that stuff, but setting up him as like a guy who kills drug lords is kind of weird,
Yeah.
But I had trouble with Morton Downey Jr. The not even vague stereotypes of Jamaican / Bahamian voodoo guys, and obviously the Colombians were, that's a whole nother thing. With the guy had Toltec columns in his apartment. Come on, man, who does this? And the shit happen stuff, it seemed very campy, and I don't know. I'm sorry, Justin. This was you don't have to like it to impress me.
I
know. I don't. What am I apologizing for? This movie's crap. I'm mad at Molly. I'm not mad at you, Justin. Okay.
This is all my
she's the one who
fault.
recommended
Okay,
this
I
tripe.
can take it.
So here, I want you to. I'm gonna let you enjoy this picture of Gary Busey being bisected. What's the what?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Sorry,
that's good for the audience at home. But
That's
Mike
excellent.
has done it.
There you go. That was my favorite.
Mike has done an artist rendering of our beloved Gary Busey.
Okay.
Yes, I need to add a quote that says "Lions and tigers and bears, oh my!" And
Yeah.
that will finish it off, right?
Send me a picture of that so that can go up on the Instagram page. Mike, I'm cutting you off. All right, so Molly, you
Am I
can't
off
do
the force?
Molly, yeah, you're off the force. Molly, you can't do a grumpy review because they don't sell movie tickets to embryos. So you didn't see this the first time,
Oof.
but walk us through your history with this movie and what got you here.
Well, okay. To be fair, this was only the second time I had seen it because, context-wise, we were getting ready to watch. My husband and I were getting ready to watch Prey, and I hadn't seen any of the Predator movies. So he's like, "Okay, we'll come back to this one. We have to watch everything leading up to it." So we went through Predator, Predator 2, Alien versus Predator. We went through all of them, and it was an experience. So I think seeing them like back to back like that kind of helps it maintain some kind of context, or at least there's a similar feeling. Well, let me put it this way: there's a similar cultural feeling, but not a similar genre feeling. So, for example, I do prefer Predator because it's more of a survival horror, I guess. And this is like they kind of did away with that aspect and just went for like action adventure with the gratuitous, a lot of like lingering shots of
Nice.
exploded bodies and things like that. Whereas the first one is like the horror is not really quite knowing everything that he does. And in this one, they're like, we're going to show you all of it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to see it. So watching it in context, the first time was kind of like, okay, this makes sense. The second time I watched it was outside of that context. And I see like the cultural impact it had. Like a lot of stuff came out of this movie. A lot of stuff was established with the Predator series. But it's very dated. Like the cultural context is very much a product of its time. So that I see how that makes it kind of difficult to be like, okay, I probably wouldn't pick this movie to like sit and watch it by itself. I would definitely pick the first one over that. I would definitely pick Prey actually over seeing probably any of the others. Prey was excellent. So I get its place in that zeitgeist, but by itself, it's just kind of not one you really come back to, I guess. If that makes sense. Mike's giving it 2 thumbs down.
How many stars out of 5 would you give it, Molly?
Ooh. I would say a 2.5 or a 3 because I would watch it in context. Like if I was rewatching the series, I wouldn't skip it, but I probably wouldn't watch it by itself. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
fair.
Wow, that's way more profound than anything we would have come up with. So thank you very much for that.
She's too intelligent for our show, Justin.
She's really raising the bar here. I'm kind of dirty.
Yeah.
A pretty common theme about this in the cultural legacy of it is that, what could have been with Arnold, and that got us thinking that, a lot of times there's such a drive and such a need to fuel the engines of industry that once Hollywood gets hold of a property like this that shows any kind of success, it's implied that they have to go to the next phase. And sometimes there's bumps in the road, and a lot of times critical characters or contributing people to the first movie don't want to go on. And the elephant in the room has always been with this movie is like, Arnold wasn't there, but they made do with somebody else.
There's Arnold.
Yeah, that's the first thing you think of. Well, no Arnold, right?
Yeah.
So that got us thinking.
No Arnold.
Oh dear.
It's an interesting phenomenon in Hollywood where they decide to, you know what, we need to do a sequel. We didn't get what we want, but we'll make do. So we thought it would be funny to put some components together for You Just Made the List, Pal. we thought it'd be funny to put together our top 3 make-do sequel examples. This is where, in order to keep the project going, the producers or whoever decided, you know what, Arnold didn't do it. Get Danny Glover. We'll make do. Just get it out there. So, what are some of the most egregious examples of just continuing something without critical characters? So, Molly, you're the guest. You get to go first. What's a great example? What's one of your favorite examples of that?
Yes, make it go first.
I will preface this with my movie and like series experience is not great, so I only have a couple of examples.
Okay.
The first one I could think of off the top of my head was probably Back to the Future, but that's not a main person who didn't come back. It was some of the side people who didn't come back.
Yeah.
But I mean, it still worked. You know, it was side people. But I do know that, for example, Crispin Glover, who played Marty McFly's dad, caused them a lot of problems over the years because they didn't pay him enough to come back. I don't know if that's like an egregious example, though, is the problem.
It's they don't have to be winners. They just have to be examples.
That's true.
It's
the premise is what we're making fun of. The people.
If you look at the list of all, I mean, most of these guys or gals want more money in the sequel.
Yeah, they want more money.
Usually,
Yeah.
Not that. So that kind of works.
Well, that works because you've got a trilogy of movies that everybody knows, but all of a sudden there's someone's missing.
Yes.
But the producers don't care, so that's a good example. Mike,
or it's somebody totally different that they say, "Oh, look, it's the same person."
Oh, yeah.
You're like, that is not the same person.
It's Crispin Glover's brother.
No. Nice segue. Nice. I like Molly's segue there. Mine is a TV show, and of course I can't. Justin, I don't live by your rules, so I can't just do movies.
Few people can, Mike.
I know, right? I'm gonna go with a TV show from the '60s. Everyone knows, called Bewitched, which had a man named Dick York who played Darren Stevens, and played him for a few seasons there. And he was a pretty funny guy. But then all of a sudden, you see this other guy, who just happened to be named Dick also, Dick Sargent, replace him. And you're supposed to assume, hey, that's not Darren Stevens, but it is Darren Stevens. And everybody just ran with it. And apparently Dick York had back problems or health issues and couldn't be on the show. So they switched the guys. And as a little kid watching the show, you kind of question it, but you run with it. It's the same guy. He's still, he's still the husband of Sam. And you get used to it, but it's a little off-putting watching some of the reruns. Like, okay, is this a Dick York episode or a Dick Sargent episode? And
those Bewitched are so confused. They're hard to follow, Mike. They're so complex.
I know, right? At least Dr. Bombay didn't change. He was the same.
Okay, all right.
I'm happy about that. So
all right.
That's my example.
So Dick Sargent, Dick York. That's a good one, Mike. One of my examples, one of my favorite ones is we talked about this a little bit on our second episode. Independence Day Resurgence, the sequel. Will Smith didn't come back.
Yes.
Will Smith was the lead, the main driving force in that first movie. I don't care. Sorry, apologies to Jeff Goldblum.
Mm-hmm.
But Will Smith did not come back. So what do they do, Mike? Will Smith's little boy grows up, takes a role.
His wife in there. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So not only that, but they put about 1,400 other characters in there to make up the difference. And sometimes it's quality, not quantity. And if anybody's seen Independence 4 Resurgence, you know that the movie not good. And a lot of that has to do with, you're missing Will Smith. He's the driving force of that first movie. But the producer said, he doesn't want to do it. Okay, fine. Get someone else. Stamp a copy on it and put it out there. They'll buy it. And they did. So that's my first egregious example. So, Molly, we're back around to you.
I guess, again, like I said, I don't... The only other one I could think of off the top of my head, and because the problem is finding movies I have seen, and a lot of these movies I have not seen, or a lot of these shows. So, Hunt for Red October, I guess Alec Baldwin was supposed to come back, and they replaced him with Harrison Ford.
There you go.
I'm not saying it didn't work,
but
I'm not saying it didn't work, but I guess if you were expecting to see Alec Baldwin and he did not show up, I'm not personally an Alec Baldwin fan. I prefer Harrison Ford, but I think it works either way. But I do know that he was supposed to come back, and they
that's
did not
a great
bring him back.
example. Yeah, that's great movie. Both of them turned out pretty good.
Wow, that's again.
I know, right? So it's like,
wow.
So it works.
All right, Mike, your turn.
Hers is more intelligent than ours.
Yeah, I know. We got to suffer through this now. Yeah.
Now I'll just feel silly. All right, well, I'll go ahead and try my best here. Sanford and Son, second and third season in. For people who don't know, it's a really good show from the 70s. Stars Red Fox as Junkman Fred Sanford, and he has this. Most of the show deals with him and his son Lamont, and their shenanigans.
Big dummy.
Big dummy. The show got really popular like 2 or 3 seasons in, which their popularity means, hey, I want a little more money. So guess what? Red Fox leaves the show, and his character supposedly goes to St. Louis, to be with his family for the year. And they bring in Fred's, one of his friends, whose name is Grady, played by Whitman Mayo, who, he's funny as a sidekick, but when they brought him on to like live with Lamont in the house and kind of replace the main actor, Red Fox, it just did not work well for me. It's one of those like I was saying with the Bewitched. It was whenever I see a Grady episode, I'm kind of like, well, it's going to be okay. He did his best, but he's no Red Fox. And finally, they paid. Red Fox got his big contract, and then when he came back to the show, it wasn't quite as good, but he had his money, so the damage was done. The main actor shows up, but the damage has been done exactly, and
kind of like the Chrissy on Three's Company syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Molly, you're gonna have to take our word on a lot of
Justin, please.
Yeah, I'm absorbing all of this information to look up later.
Yeah. All right, that's a good one.
How about this? I like John Krasinski better than Harrison Ford. Take that. Oof.
Okay. All right.
Ooh. To be fair, John Krasinski he's pretty good as Jack Ryan.
What about Ben Affleck? Okay, we can all agree Ben Affleck is a bad
fine,
Jack Ryan.
But I mean, I don't think I've actually seen his Jack Ryan.
Oh wow! It was only one movie. I think it was The Sum of All Fears. I want to say
All Fears. Yeah.
Where the actual there's actually nuclear bombs that go off in that one. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Ooh.
Yeah.
They actually pulled the trigger.
They did.
All right. Well, I guess it's my turn to wrap up this train wreck. So this isn't necessarily a bad movie, but Hannibal, the movie Hannibal, the third part of the Silence of the Lamb trilogy. Julianne Moore's wonderful, great actress, but she's just not Jodie Foster. And that movie was pretty well done, great story, but it just the fact that Jodie Foster didn't come back from that iconic role in Silence of the Lambs, it's really just you can't really connect the dots anymore, And you expect Clarice Starling to be Jodie Foster, and when you see her, it's just she did a great job. She did the best with the material she was given, but it's just it's kind of baked in. At that point, you develop a association with that character, with that actress, and when she's not there, it's like the movies weren't even connected for me for some reason. So that I thought was egregious, but they had to make that movie.
And seeing Ray Liotta eat his own brain is kind of weird.
Eat his own brain. That's a good. Yeah. Well, that's saving grace, Mike. Is that Ray Liotta ate his own brain?
That's true.
All right.
I got one more, Justin. I got a good one here.
You got an honorable mention, Mike?
This is my final entry.
Yeah,
I do. Caddyshack 2. Everyone knows and enjoys the original Caddyshack. Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, and a little bit of Chevy Chase. But Caddyshack 2 comes out, and luckily for these guys, I don't think they wanted more money. I just think they saw the script and was like, this is trash.
Yeah.
And decided not to do it. So instead of Rodney Dangerfield, you get Jackie Mason,
Yeah.
Instead of Ted Knight, you get Robert Stack, And then you get it took 2 people to replace Bill Murray. They had to use Randy Quaid
Dan Aykroyd too, right?
Dan Aykroyd. Yeah. So and the movie suffered because they didn't have those, the performance of those, Rodney Dangerfield is so much better than Jackie Mason, and it was the same damn character.
Yeah.
Okay, this movie's awful. Do not watch Caddyshack 2.
I know all those unanswered questions from Caddyshack don't get answered, right, Mike?
No. The gopher does fall in love with a is it a cat? Oh shoot! The very end of the movie, the gopher has a relationship with another animal. It's not his species. I can't remember what it is.
Ooh.
Somebody, yes,
The burning question. I really want to know about that.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to call it quits. I think we've hit the bottom already. So thank you guys for your contribution. That was pretty funny. There's a couple things I want to add as honorable mentions, Mike. And Molly, I think you can even rate on our scale here because these are Home Alone 2, 3, 4. I think there's like 7 Home Alones. I think when Disney got hold of the property, they put out like direct-to-video releases. But even Home Alone 2 made me mad because the premise. They got Macaulay back, which I'm sure he was probably indentured into a contract to do that anyway. But okay. I can accept the premise the first time. It's cute. It's charming. I watch it every year. It's a great idea. Second one, even with Macaulay back, okay, he gets left alone in a giant building, and the 2 burglars come back. It's got Donald Trump in it. There's nothing good about it. And then to push 3 and 4, okay, I understand Macaulay's like 40 years old now, so he obviously can't be the kid. But just stop it.
Right.
Just stop it.
Wait, you just made me think of another one, Justin. Beethoven's Third didn't have Charles Grodin in it, so it was a really bad movie for me. I hated that.
Well, another Arnold omission, Kindergarten Cop 2. They replaced Arnold with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They made a sequel to that? Oh.
Yeah. This was fun. Molly, we are really just thrilled that you decided to join us. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you will come back and sit in with some other ones.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We'll just forget about all the things you called out there way smarter than us. We'll just forget about that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not right, man.
I had a whole list of things to talk about, and I was like, this might be like diving a little too deep. So I'm going to bring up like a few things.
Cherry pick one right now and bring it up.
Oh, one right now. What was it? Oh, yes, my favorite one. Okay, so the division that Bill Paxton's character transfers over, they just briefly mention it's called the Rampart Division in L.A. So, ironically, in 1997, like the actual 1997, that division got busted for this gigantic what do you call it? Police brutality investigation, police corruption investigation. So the time frame that this movie is set, it's supposed to be like this safe, like not nothing happens there sort of thing. And in 1997,
nice.
There was a lot of stuff going on. It was not a great place
Very
to be.
Nice.
Apparently.
Speaking of not a great place to be, you can check out our social media at Grumpy Nostalgia on Instagram. If you feel compelled to send us an email with any of our brilliant observations or calling us out, you can send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. Do what Molly did. Direct message us and get on the show. It's that simple.
Yes. That's all I did. I just requested a thing.
It's just that easy,
sitting here recording things.
Again, in all sincerity, we really want to thank Molly for joining us. It was really a pleasure to meet you and get you to contribute to the show. And this was a lot of fun, and we hope to do it a lot more. So thank you for joining us, Maria. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Gabe, so that's going to wrap it up for the show. Mike, we're going to take off. Anything else you want to say before we leave?
Final Jeopardy answer is Richard the Lionheart.
You were one ugly mother